Back on Memorial Day weekend of this year, 2025, I visited Tennessee with my family, specifically the mountains around Sevierville, Tennessee. It's now months later, and I'm thinking back to how much I like the scenery around there. So then I decided I kind of want to make a Trainz route based off of the places that I've been, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. On August 28th, 2025, I started the Townsend and Gatlinburg Scenic Railway, or the TNGS for short. I'll start in Townsend, Tennessee, across the street from the Village Market, which is probably the nicest store I've ever been in, and build to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, following the Little River along the way. I started work last Thursday on August 28th. I was mainly trying to start a general look of the area. Later, I would change the look of the mountains and push them back further so it would be more accurate. I also started on the yard for this end of the line, as well as the station. So far, things were going smoothly, but now came the tricky part. My main goal was to replicate scenes that I had actually seen during my time there. Some things will be more difficult than others, especially because Trainz does not have the exact assets that I need. Some of the things will just have to be close enough, which is why I went with the church on the right here. As far as replicating the scene goes, I think I did pretty good trying to get the signs and the scenery right. Overall, I'm happy with how it's going. I may go back and tweak some things, but for now, it looks pretty good. Before ending work for that day, I decided to run a train past the scene. So here's that. For some reason, after over a year of not being able to place trackside objects, I finally regained the ability. This resulted in me laying down some speed limits for the route, as well as other signs. I also added 2 steam locomotives to the route. One is a 260 and one is a 440. The 260 will be the main power for the passenger train, while the 440 will come out on special occasions. You might have remembered me saying that I was going to redo the mountains, and that's exactly what I did. I wasn't quite satisfied with how they looked, so I decided to change them. After I did this, they started looking a bit more accurate to the view in real life. Eventually, I realized that my route was starting to go in the wrong direction. Instead of extending past the Townsend Gateway Inn, it was supposed to turn left by Cades Cove Jeep Outpost onto the Wares Valley. Luckily, I hadn't built much past there yet, so all I had to do was remove some track. I built a decent enough crossing there. I would have preferred it to have gates, but that wasn't an option. My next objective was to tackle this bridge over the little river, and I think I did a pretty good job on it. After looking and seeing how wide the river should be in Trainz, I placed down this bridge, and it looks pretty close to the one in real life. Then I put in the actual river, the railroad bridge, and some light levels of foliage. Jokes aside, I'm really happy with how this area turned out. In my opinion, it's a very pretty scene having the railroad go over the river with lots of trees on either side. It looks pretty close to the actual scene too. Maybe I could add a few more trees in the future. I decided that I wanted to do some more running before I continued on to the next scene. After this, I started to work on detailing the area on the other side of the river. While I can't exactly replicate signs in this game, I can get good representations of them, like this one. I tried doing everything as close as I could to what it was in real life. I also tinted the water a different color so it would look more like this photo. I think I did a pretty good job on this sign too. I think this is probably the most detailed area I've made in Trainz so far, and overall I'm pretty happy with it. The building on the far left is supposed to be a stand-in for the Smoky Mountain Sasquatch. It isn't entirely accurate, but it's a decent representation. For most of my time working yesterday, I didn't run anything on camera. I just focused on more detailing. I changed the mountains a little bit more to try to match this view. I still think I might change them more in the future. I also began another area that was on the other side of the road. I'm really liking the look of it. Compared to here, the area around the station and the yard was starting to look a little dull. Probably because it was. So I decided to change that. If my station was real, a Dollar General would be right across the street from it. So I made a representation of it. I matched the foliage around the front and the left side as best as I could. Then I put down the building and put in some parking spaces. Fun fact, I made sure to include the same number of parking spaces in Trainz as in real life. I also made sure to put down the ditch and the sign advertising the Tuckaleechee Caverns on the side and the front of the store. Before ending work, I put down a few more things in the previous area. I added this Townsend sign and a stop sign with a street sign on top at Red Hollow Road. I also changed the mountains again to be a little bit bigger. The last thing I did was put in this private crossing. I noticed that as you climb up into the Wares Valley, there's a driveway on the side. Since it's not a main road, I used 2 crossbucks instead of the normal flashers. Then I finished it up with some foliage on the side. And with that, I was done for the day. Thank you all for watching, and make sure to share if you think others will find this project interesting. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see y'all next time.